Good morning, YouTube. Highwayman Trucking here. Welcome to My Way on the Highway. A little home time last couple of days, and like everybody else, when you get home, there are nothing but projects, especially when you're gone for weeks at a time. And my grandson Jackson in the back. We're going to get some parts for my truck today.
And the traffic jam on the freeway.
Yeah, and there's a traffic jam on the freeway. Anyhow, we've got to do some preventative maintenance.
Yep.
I need to change out the belts, my fan belt and my drive belt.
Yep.
I need to change out some cab shocks and 4 more shocks on the back of my tractor. I did the front shocks a couple weeks ago. So, nothing but fun. And we're going to go on over here to Fleet Pride in Mesa, Arizona, and see if they got the parts so that we don't have to drive 60 miles to Kenworth. And, of course, pay those Kenworth prices. Been a good day. Just starting out. So, had a good couple of days home. First day was typical yard work and projects. Had a good evening that night. My son's 26th birthday, and that was pretty cool. Always nice to go out to dinner with family. What do we do the next day, Jackson? I don't remember. We've had our grandson this whole weekend. Lots of little odd and end projects around the house, and truck maintenance today. Also got a little surprise with my wife's car here that we're in. It had an engine code, and went down to AutoZone, and lo and behold, it's a thermostat, which is easy, cheap part. However, I got to drain the coolant. That's always a joy, but at least it's not the coolant in my big truck where it's 15 gallons of coolant. So we got a full day ahead of us. Get some truck work done. Tomorrow's a pretty easy day. My wife and I are going to work on some videos, get those uploaded, posted, and oh yeah, I got to go to Apple with my computer. That should be fun. I don't like it when I don't understand things, and you know how that is. You go to Apple, it's kind of like going to Starbucks for me. I feel like I'm committing treason, but anyhow, we'll talk to you in a bit. Local Fleet Pride. Hopefully they have what we need. Nothing but money to spend, huh? He thinks it's fun. All right, so we actually had a couple of stops. We went to Fleet Pride, and one thing I'm always leery of is buying parts anywhere but the dealership. I bought my shocks, my drive shocks, which they had, which were fine, but the belts they had were different dimensions than what Kenworth told me. And I had the Kenworth part number. Fleet Pride's now able to run full VINs, and they came back with something different. I gave them the Kenworth part number, and they said, oh yeah, this is the same thing. But I noticed that their belts, both belts, were 14 millimeters larger than what Kenworth called for. So the nice thing was they told me there was a new Kenworth about 5 miles down the road from me, so that's awesome. Went to this Kenworth, and sure enough, they stocked the part, and they were 14 millimeters smaller than what Fleet Pride had sold me. The beauty is, one of the belts was $10 cheaper at Kenworth than at Fleet Pride. Usually the dealerships are more expensive. So I guess the point is sometimes people think they're saving money by going to somewhere other than the dealership. That was not the case here. And I got the correct part number for my truck. When the other place said, hey, this is correct, it wasn't. It was 14 millimeters too big. And so I had them check the second belt that the other place didn't have in stock, but they were going to get me at 11 o'clock today. And sure enough, that belt was 14 millimeters bigger. So Gonna return what I bought at Fleet Pride, and we're gonna stick with the dealership. So just some food for thought. Do your homework, make sure that things are right. You know, 14 millimeters might not be a big difference. It might get you by in a jam, but I don't want to get by, especially when I'm spending money on fixing my truck. I don't want to spend money twice, so food for thought. Okay, so we replaced our 4-drive shocks. There's one here, one there, and one on the other side that look exactly the same. Pretty self-explanatory. 2 bolts, one at the top, one at the bottom. Just, you know, take your time. Sometimes those bolts are stuck. I know the last time I replaced them about a year and a half ago, they were literally stuck on. I had to cut them out, but these were easy peasy, and again, self-explanatory. Cab shocks, they're obviously a lot more difficult to get to, but as you can see, this one was fairly easy on the driver's side. I went ahead and replaced those 2 bolts. I had never done that, so I wanted nice fresh bolts in there that weren't seized up and one thing or another. And that side was easy. The other side that I'll take you to, I did not replace yet. I have the shock for it, but you can see I own an old Melton truck, and I've got this lockbox, which comes in real handy, but it doesn't make for great accessibility for that cab shock. And it's not that I couldn't do it, I just didn't want to take the time yesterday. I had a full day. So someday this week, when I'm all filthy dirty and I've got nothing else to do, I will drop this lockbox and change out this cab shock. Our fan belt and our drive belt. And in the middle of that, I found out that this tensioner, which is right here, a nice $380 part from Cummins, was not functioning properly. It was stuck in the middle and essentially not putting proper tension. It's actually kind of a miracle that I didn't break down, but somebody was watching over me. So anyhow, I went ahead and had to replace that so that there was proper tension on the belts, and everything's up and runs perfect. So got that done. A little preventative maintenance, something as simple as a drive belt. You know, one of the belts was $39.95. The other belt was $98, or excuse me, $89. And those 2 things can put you on the side of the road needing a tow if you don't maintain them. And I'd let mine go a little longer than they should have, but I was lucky, and so they're replaced and done, and we had a successful day. Now I'm gonna load my truck and get ready for the next couple of days.